Hey there, friends and enemies, Jopa here again, and today I want to ask the question of whether or not Marvel Rivals should keep some of its limited time game modes around permanently in the arcade section of the game. And I ask this question because I've been having an absolute blast with Clone Rumble and want to keep playing this over the long haul, but I know it'll go away sooner rather than later. So, if you were unaware, Marvel Rivals has a few different game modes available at any given time. They have Quick Match and Competitive, obviously. Then in the arcade section, they have Doom Match, which is a respawn mode where you play as an individual. There are no teams, just 12 players who all try to kill each other at the same time. This can be fun in short spurts, but I don't really care for it because the balance is kind of crazy. Some characters absolutely dominate this mode, and there's really no way for them to balance around that. And so it gets kind of old quickly because a lot of people just want to run the best possible characters instead of trying fun different things. Then there's also Conquest. This has a similar issue but in a different way. Conquest is 2 teams of 6 battling it out in a team deathmatch style mode, and again, a lot of times, because you don't have to rely on standard team compositions, healers, or anything like that, you're going to see players running the absolute sweatiest characters in this game mode at all times, and it just does get stale quite a bit. That's where Clone Rumble separates itself for me personally, because you're able to mix it up every single match. Whether one time you're running Iron Fist and the Thing and just punching the lights out of each other the entire game, whether you're running something like Hawkeye, Black Widow, seeing who the best sniper is, there's a lot of interesting combinations that I find to be hilarious, especially if you get a group of players who are all willing to be a little bit silly with it. I'm a big fan of shenanigans in video games, and I wish more people did enjoy this stuff as well. Now, whether that means this game mode would be fun in the long term, I do feel like this is one of those where they can test it out, see how popular it is, and really try it in the arcade section after the event is over. The reason for that is a lot of times you'll see players jumping into these game modes simply to get the rewards from the event. I don't think that the All Jeff game mode is something that should be around permanently. That is a fun seasonal activity. Same thing with the Rocket League style soccer match that you had as well earlier in one of the seasons, because that one is just not a game mode I can see people playing unless they're trying to earn rewards, or if they just want to jump in randomly because they, I guess, enjoy it. But it's just not a game mode that I think is going to be viable in the long term. However, something like Clone Rumble, I think, could absolutely be another addition to the arcade game mode, and I do hope they use these events in order to test these things out and see how successful they are over the course of time. I also think they should be testing a lot more in order to not only showcase the arcade modes, but also highlight them a little bit as well. It does feel like they are kind of forgotten when you click into the game modes. I would rather see an extra tab, probably, where Doom Match and Conquest are, as an entire full tab that just says arcade, similar to what Overwatch does, and then you can click on that and pick a game mode. You don't want to water it down. I think I'm going to play devil's advocate within this video as well and trying to talk about both sides. And that is the watering down of the player bases in each playlist, which is something that absolutely can happen if you have too many of them at any given time. I don't think that's a problem right now because of how popular this game is, how many people are still playing it, but it could be a potential issue long term as the player base starts to drop. Obviously, most people are going to be in either quick match or competitive, but I do want some additional fun, viable options that people can jump into if they don't want to play those 2 traditional game modes. And it might not be just Clone Rumble. Maybe there's other ideas that would be just as much, if not more fun. But I really do hope we get an expanded arcade section, even if it rotates, even if you get Doom Match on Mondays, then you get Conquest on Tuesdays, or something of that nature, to where you could rotate in these playlists in order to keep them feeling a little bit fresh as well. But just to have some additional options long term in order to get people playing different styles of game and just doing stuff that's strictly for fun and not for competitive, hyper focused on winning gameplay. And everybody loves to win, obviously, but there's a lot of people, a lot of casual players in this game, and I do feel like these more silly game modes could be a ton of fun over the long haul. And you just have to avoid the dangers that you have of Doom Match and Conquest, and that is them becoming hyper competitive, hyper sweaty, and that is hard to avoid in certain cases. But if you have Clone Rumble, the reason I think it is so successful for me personally is that you have 6 players on a team. Everyone is voting for whatever characters they want to play. So one game you might get the Sweat, who's a Lord Iron Fist, a Lord Winter Soldier, maybe a Lord Hela, who gets their pick and does actually dominate the game. But then you'll have a bunch of other games where they try to pick their Lord Hela, but instead everyone is playing as something silly like a bunch of Hulks and things, and all you're doing is punching everybody as much as possible. There's a lot of different options with it, and that's why I feel like this could be a fun full-time addition. Whether it's Clone Rumble or not, though, I do want them to expand upon the arcade section as much as possible. I do feel like it is something that should be more fleshed out in order for them to have more interesting game modes over the long haul. And then maybe we get a revamp of Doom Match and Conquest at a date in the future. Maybe you have Doom Match where on certain days you can only play as certain characters or something like that. I'm thinking outside the box a little bit, but I just want them to be creative with these game modes. I want them to try different things to keep people engaged. Again, this is not an issue right now simply because the game is so successful. But while it's riding this high, that is when you want to capitalize the most. Keep as many players around as you possibly can. Keep them enjoying the game. Keep people talking about it, getting hyped, getting excited about these new skins, the new event rewards, new battle passes, the new characters that come out. And if you add some fun ways to keep people engaged over the long haul on top of all that, it's just a bonus. And so I just really want them to consider this in the future. I do feel like I might be in the minority, at least vocally online, with regards to Clone Rumble and arcade style modes in general. I do feel like as a video game community, we have gotten hyper competitive, and I want to get back to more fun, silly gameplay of 6 people teaming up, doing something absolutely ludicrous just for the fun of it, and not really having to focus on, okay, what's the best character to play, what's the meta, what's going to help you climb and rank up the fastest and all that kind of good stuff, because I do feel like that's overdone, and it does take a bit of the fun away from the video game that is supposed to be enjoyable. This is supposed to be a fun hobby for people, and yet everyone's so focused on being competitive that does sap some of that enjoyment for me and for a lot of other people, in my opinion, as well. I do feel like that is something that I hope Marvel Rivals continues to embrace the shenanigans of the game and allow people to be silly with this game that does involve the Marvel multiverse and all these different characters that can be very fun as long as you don't take it too seriously. There's always going to be competitive players. There's always going to be folks who only want to win at all costs, whether it's in quick play or competitive. That's a video for another day, in my opinion. Being hyper competitive in quick match is one of my least favorite traits about the hero shooter community in general. It does feel like people want to win so bad they will sweat regardless of what the situation calls for, whether your team is losing, whether you have the right team composition, whatever the case may be. I want more places where I can have silly fun and just play to relax and enjoy myself. Something like Mayhem in Destiny 2, for example, is something that I would love to see, where you just get your abilities recharged so fast that you're just essentially just spamming them nonstop, and just chaos ensues, and you just see what happens and what kind of fun mischief you can get into with that kind of stuff. You could also do some silly stuff with different characters getting super buffed or getting swapping abilities. I don't know. There's a lot of things they can do with the arcade style modes that I really want them to experiment with in these limited time events, and then hopefully incorporate them full time over the long haul. I know I kind of ranted a little bit there, but I just want to get my point across, because at the end of the day, it's not that serious. Have fun with the game. Try to find whatever amusement you can with the video games that you are playing. I think that is something that I want to impart on everybody who watches me. I'm trying to have a good time. I hope you are too. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Like the video as always. Comment, subscribe. Have a good one, and I'll catch you all later.
Hey, thanks. Your attacks are pretty weak. Qi Guan Changhong!